So we stopped somewhere in the middle. It was Vedic concept of speech in Sri Aurobindo's view. And I spent a lot of time explaining to you the prosodics, the poetics of different chandas. Now there are files there, you can see for yourself, or you can download them from universityofhumanunity.org. And what is interesting in this, it's for study. It's not a simple thing. You will have to dwell on every of these things and think for yourself and try out how it sounds with your tongue. You can see there are two different ways of marking it, yes? And I think I have the file. So one is heavy syllable, the other is light syllable, yes? You can see it's not on the board, it's here. Yes? So they are marked like light and heavy syllable, or stressed and unstressed. And so all the rest you figure out for yourself. If you have some questions, it's a big thing, and I can't spend time with you for this because it's not linguistics, it's poetics, and we just touched very briefly about it, and I explained to you why this Vedic accent was needed to cover up those possibilities, to maintain the meter and to maintain the morphological accent in the word, which is the most difficult thing. Now, what Rod presented to you was this quantitative meter means that you will have to find a compromise in speech. A poet has to feel and to hear that compromise between the meter and the morphological accent of the word. They both have to be maintained in speech, and then poetry appears. It's the most difficult thing, the most subtle for the ear, both things to be maintained. If you try out for yourself to really do it, Rod says that you should not do anything, you just follow the instinct, but he was given that instinct. Others should study it and come to it by their own studies. And it is possible to study. Sri Aurobindo did study all those meters, and he saw that subtlety, that compromise between the two, the meter and the morphological accent.
I was just wondering one thing, if one goes into the meter, that's what I'm trying at the moment, it's a bit, if you go in the meter and you let it establish itself, because it is this wave which wants to go on, then if you go afterwards to the accent, you subordinate the movement.
Yes.
It's easier I felt this way around.
Very, very easy. And it is, in a way, I also tried that out. You have to try things out, otherwise you do not know how they work. These are very powerful things, and you cannot learn about them from writings. You have to really hear and try to accentuate them. And then you will see that that meter, once it is established, and you insist on the accent, morphological, but still carried by that flood of meter, chandas, you will find a compromise, which will be something close to that quantitative meter. I could give you examples, but I would rather not do this. So in the last page you will find all this very simple on the meter in general note, something which Rod didn't dwell on, but for you it might be very interesting because there are examples here. What is monometer, diameter, 3 meter, tetrameter, pentameter? What are these? And examples of trochaic and iambic, of both.
Under what name is it in the web? Under what?
Yes, you can find it in the web.
Under what name?
That is on the meter.
On the meter.
No, you can even Google it, and you will find in Wikipedia very good articles on the meter. And just look into that. You know, there is a time in life when we come to this and we become in need of these things. I feel that sometimes, long ago, it was not needed, yes, but now we are arriving at the stage where all these simple things, basics, are becoming necessary for our own development. Well, that is for poetry. Now we are coming back to the linguistics. And here we have much to discuss today. Very interesting and profound things. Now, I thought that it was enough of Vedic, but of course it goes on, and there is no end to it. And if I dwell on Vedic, it will be only for Vedic studies. So I have to shift and move towards that which appeared later. If I read to you these quotations, beautiful quotations of Sri Aurobindo, then we will have half time. You can read it for yourself. It's all there, printed out. Sri Aurobindo defines the hierarchy of four levels of speech: physical, vital, mental, and supramental, which in Indian grammatical tradition resemble, so to say, and can be identified with these four famous names, Vaikari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Parama. These terms are used later in Tantric tradition. We will deal with them from now on quite often, so you will have to be used to these terms. Now, how he does it, it's quite interesting. He says, let us suppose a conscious use of the vibrations of sound which will produce corresponding forms or changes of form. Let us realize then that a vibration of sound on the material plane presupposes a corresponding vibration on the vital, without which it could not have come into play. Now, everything what here appears on the material plane presupposes vital formation. And if vital formation does not take place, there is nothing on the physical to play. Then, he says, that again presupposes a corresponding originating vibration on the mental. Because everything what is on the vital plane, in the subtle form, has its origin in the mental formation. The mental presupposes a corresponding originating vibration on the supramental, at the very root of things. Now, it seems that there is nothing in this world which is not originated from the supramental plane. Nothing at all. It's a big statement, yes? Even those clumsy words which we speak and repeat and stumble, everything is somewhere presupposed on the supramental plane. Only it struggles, it comes down with these clashes and struggles and confusions. But still, the vibration itself, the formulation itself, is coming from the highest plane. Let it be like.
I had in this, when you refer just now, also, I found in Savitri when Sri Aurobindo is writing in the Secret Knowledge that there are two letters which void the third middle one. That this is missing, and the sound has to be found again. It's in Savitri.
Yeah, well, I just don't remember this for now. But if we take the quotation, we can look into that. Yes. And it would be nice to. There are many. There is a whole list of quotations I collected, which Aurobindo speaks in Savitri speech. It's profound. On the word, on the flame, you just collect them. If you read them, you will be flaming up. But a mental vibration, he says, implies thought and perception. And a supramental vibration implies a supreme vision and discernment. All vibrations of sound on that higher plane is an instinct with, an expressive of this supreme discernment of the truth in things, and is at the same time creative, instinct with the supreme power, which casts into forms the truth discerned, and eventually, descending from plane to plane, reproduces it in the physical form, object created in matter by etheric sound. It's a complex vision, and he concludes, thus we see that the theory of creation by the word, which is the absolute expression of the truth, and the theory of material creation by sound vibration in the ether correspond and are two logical poles of the same idea. This was the question, what about music and other vibrations, and all vibrations? They are two poles of the same idea. They both belong to the same ancient Vedic system. Now here we come. I have to introduce this scheme for you, just to have a look. These four planes about which he was talking right now. There is physical, there is vital, there is mental, and there is something which is beyond mental. I put over mental, but he speaks about supramental. Over mental is an outburst of supramental into this creation. It's a link between this lower hemisphere and supramental. It is in its quality supramental, but it is directed towards the creation. Now, these four levels of speech, which I correspond with four different levels in the Tantric tradition, Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para, I would like to translate to you. So Vaikhari is that gross, vikara, that gross speech or the sound which belongs to Dhvani level. Dhvani, where the sound takes form in the physical. Madhyama is that middle speech. It's a grammatical speech, language. The formation of language which formed by the mind addresses this intention which comes from above, as Pashyanti, is a flash of intuition, is a seeing speech. Pashyanti is a seeing. Dresses it into the form of language, into mental categories, into relations within the syntax, like subject, object, predicate, time and space, manner and number, and so on. All linguistic categories are the categories of Madhyama, of formation of the vital plane, where the form of the word and the form of the form takes place. Now, I would like to introduce to you another way of thinking, which is very creative. If we see now any object, whatever object you see, how do you know that this object is that what you see? By what faculty you know what you see is that what you see? How do you know that this is a pen? These are glasses.
We have an experience of glasses.
Okay, you have an experience that these are glasses. Maybe it's too complicated because glasses are plural. You take something in singular. Okay, a pen. How do you know that this pen is a pen? Of course, you had experience of writing.
Well, I saw you write with it
Right, you saw me writing, but writing, it does not say to you that this is a pen. What does it say?
No, not
Because of that Dr. Simpson that she
Right, we were taught, we remember that this is something which writes.
has a name pen.
Yes, it has a name pen, and name pen is associated in our mind that it has to write. It has ink inside, and so on and so forth. What I want to say, what we see is not what we know. If I show you this object, it doesn't say anything that it writes or there is ink inside. You don't see it. I don't write. I show you there's some stick, and even that it is a stick and that is a white color and this is black, you know by some other faculty. You do not know that this is black and this is white and this is a stick by seeing it. What I want to say is that seeing faculty is not enough to know things. There must be another faculty, which is the faculty of the word, to really understand what it is. So the word gives you a knowledge of what it is, and the seeing gives you a form. So there are two categories in Indian tradition which are called nama and rupa. Nama, name, and rupa, form. These are fundamentals. You see the form, but you do not know what the form does unless you know the nama, the name. And the name pan says to you that it writes. In Sanskrit it will be lekhani. It's a writing thing, scratching thing. If I scratch, I will leave a trace. It's from utrik or lik, rekha for me. I will leave the line. With this line I can do anything. So it's a lining thing, which makes lines. I know it from etymology. From pen, I didn't know why pen is writing. It doesn't say any writing. It doesn't have writing ability. Pen can be also a cow pen, horse pen, or pen for, I don't know what kind of pen you can have. So you have to remember. In Sanskrit, we don't have to remember. So these fundamentals of form and name, we are living simultaneously in two realities. In reality of form, what we see, and we associate it with the reality of name, what we know about it. So the reality of the name, of the word, is not visible. You can't see it. It is intentional. It is something which you, it's like if you see the face, and the face tries to tell you something, but you don't hear. You see directly the direct evidence of the truth, the face, the eyes, but it tries to communicate and you don't hear, and you do not understand what the face wants. Now, everything which the being wants, which is not visible here, belongs to the domain of the word. It is that which reveals the intention of the spirit and brings something which is not here into the play. Does it make sense? Because everything which is already here manifested was manifested by the word, but we do not see it. We see some manifestation and we think this is it, but it is not it. There is something going on with this form still, which brings into play some other force which is not yet here. It manifests the world. It changes the form. It is an intention of the spirit which is not visible. I'm watching. Sorry, I'm hiding the skin. So I'm giving it now. It's interesting to see these two, Nama and Rupa, in two different, I will have to delete it. You can see it here, Nama and Rupa. You can see also interesting other, Shakti and Chit, Tapas and Chit. Chit is consciousness, Shakti is power. Now, all this is created by power. It has a powerful evidence. It has a being. It's hard. You can touch it. You You can push it, it can push you back. So the form is something which is embodied, but the meaning of that form is subtle. The name, the word, is not pushing you. It forms the form. The form is pushing you, but the word is creating the form. Manas and Vak, this is the domain of speech, and this is the domain of the mind. Mind in an Indian tradition, in Vedic tradition, is creator of form. No questions? Creator of form. It's a cutter. It's scissors which are cutting out of reality, shapes. It's that Madhyama Vak where the grammar, all the categories are shaped in such a way that the play, the friction between the words, different intentions will create something. This is the mind, the thought. The thought is creative of form and the carrier of the word. And the word is carrying the thought. They are both carrying each other. Chakshuk and Shrotra, another dvandva, are very important. The seeing of the form and the hearing of the word. Now, you can't see the word unless we write it on the word, blackboard, whiteboard, or unless you see the flash of the highest intuition, which is not yet formed in the language. So the hearing and seeing, also Shruti and Drishti. The Shruti is an audience, the inner audience, and Drishti is a revelation of the truth. The seeing was considered to be of the direct nature of the evidence of the truth, and hearing of indirect.
Those last two terms, what are they? Shruti?
Drishti and Shruti. Shruti is revelations through inner audience,
Okay.
and Drishti is revelation through the eye. Seeing directly, seeing the face of the truth. Now, I could add two more very important words. This would be Artha and Vak, which are always compared, the meaning and the word, the sound. Now, the meaning of the word, what is interesting, was considered to be related to the formation which the word brings, to the manifestation by the word, which it will form in any particular formation, and this will be art. Now, if I move on, it's the most important to see these two playing together. I can even remind you again that at the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the God, and the Word was God. At the beginning they were one, but then they got split. Now we have two realities. We have a linguistic reality and reality of origins. We have this reality, Pan, and we have another reality, Pan. This is also a reality. These are two realities. You can see them with your eye. Both realities coexist. They are quite different, but they are also quite similar. But what do you find similar between these two? What is similar between them? Something is similar in their function. How do we know that they are of the same kind? Who knows that these two realities are similar realities? So now we will have to see how they interact. Now this thing is a revelation. Once you see it as I saw it, you will understand everything what is there to understand about linguistics. You will never ask questions of it. You will give answers. It's a very simple scheme, but at the same time, very complex. Now we have two realities interconnected. What I did, you see, I crossed this field. This is one reality of linguistic reality, and this is other reality of the objects. One is reality of the name, other is of the form. One is reality of the meaning of the word, other is of the meaning, of the consciousness and of power. Now, on the parabak, on the level which is beyond, they are one and the same reality. So I can say that pan and pan on the level of our mental is one reality. The meaning of the word pan, the meaning of this thing which you see is one and the same. On the other level, if we go down on the mental level, suddenly we have possibilities, more possibilities. They are one and the same, yes, on the mental, on the conceptual level. The word pan and this thing is the same. But at the same time, they have kind of more space. On the vital level, there are two different formations. The vital formation of this thing and the vital formation of this word, pan, are two different formations. They split. They are not the same. And on the physical level, the words, the pan, and the objects, this thing, are two different things. You can see it for yourself. It's a big proof. Now, why I'm kind of dwelling on this, trying to say something, I try to say that this is one reality. Though it looks like two. We cannot understand it in terms of one reality unless we split them and see them, how they interact, and then we see that that is basically why I put this sign here. It's a very intuitive sign. It's a pressure of semantics on or intention to manifest meanings in the material world, to manifest new meanings, new words, new concepts, new objects. Because objects will be nothing but that pressure, that one consciousness, which is Chit Shakti, which is Chit Tapas, created and manifested in the world. Once I understood the semantics of both the object and the word is the same, I had no more questions. Now I can tell you anything you want because this division there is very creative of thought. You are no more caught into those endless questions. You can find your answers. And it's very exciting to find the answers in this particular framework. Even mentally. Does it make sense? Or it's a little bit too much to...
We have to explain more. We have to go more in.
Now, these two also, as later it comes, and you will see later in the Tantric tradition and Bhartrihari especially, he will be speaking about two elements which is expressed and expressive, Vachya and Vachaka. Vachya is that what is to be expressed, and Vachaka is that which is expressing it, which we have in later our linguistic tradition as signified and signified. Now we can see clearly here signified and signified. The signifier is the word and signified is the object.
And that's in our kind of current culture. Those two stay very different. They hold a very different experience. Because really the experience of tree, the object, and the experience of tree, the word, have immensely different qualities. And what I can see in the current consciousness, let's say, in the cultural living or Western society, whatever you want to call it, there is this kids who actually look at computers and see representation of things that they've never experienced and believe that they actually know them. They don't have the experience of tree, they know of tree, but they never walk out in the nature actually to have the direct experience of that object. They only know the words and representations, images, photographs, CDs, videos of trees.
So we
it's such a
all
different
kind of
thing.
robots sitting and enjoying nature. Well, still it's a kind of enjoyment. Photo, video. But what is interesting on semantic level, how would you really, because pen is a created thing by man, but if we take tree or sky or something, or love, or some abstract philosophy, such words which are difficult to define, how would you relate to them? How would you know that the tree is the tree semantically for both, that things and that what you think tree is? So what do you know by that? What is there which makes you know that this is the same thing? This is the fundamental question. Who unites hearing and seeing? That's what Ken asks. Kau devo yunakti. Chakshushrotram, seeing and hearing. Kau devo yunakti. Who is that God who unites seeing and hearing? The form and the name.
So these things are happening automatically in us. So it's not a question to perceive what's going on. Because it's done for us anyway.
Yeah, it's a fundamental reality. It's a description of reality which we are not thinking. I do not know what to tell you about this, but I know that this is the answer in some way, that you know about the tree, that it is tree by the word, because the reality of the tree with all the functions and all possible usage of this thing within the realm of other things would be such that you would recognize it as such. So, for example, tree is of that quality that you can burn when it is dried. It is growing from the seed, and so on and so forth. There are millions or billions characteristics to one tree which are defining it in this complexity of reality as such. There was a question of semantics in general, which I was raising in my studies in the university. I asked, how do we know that this thing is this thing? What is lexical meaning? Lexema. How do we know that a table is a table and a tree is a tree? What would be the definition of the meaning? And I was surprised that no professor could answer that question. Well, we immediately go, well, with many kind of, and then we don't. We do not know how to define table as a table. Because what would be a table in your definition? So I asked the best professor who was teaching us general linguistics, and he said, you have to read the dictionary. And in dictionary there is a description of the table, that it is a flat thing, preferably made out of wood with 4 legs and so on. I said, but it is a description of the object. It's an object you are describing, not a word, not a lexem. Do you see the point? The point is difficult. How to arrive at the meaning of the word table if we are dwelling only on the vachya and vachaka. if we are dwelling only on signified and signifier, if the word table is only to signify the table, then there is no other meaning in this word as the form of the table. Now, the form of the table can differ. It's not necessarily made out of food, not necessarily for legs. It can be all kinds of shapes. So, and this table may be something else altogether. I can make it a bed for myself and sleep on it. Or I can make it wood as a fuel to use for the fire, and so on and so forth. I can use this metal. I can start using it differently than the usage of the table would mean. So what I'm trying to come to is that the usage itself makes the meaning. Exactly. The usage of the table, which makes table table. Now I can take a chair, or I can take any other thing and make out of it a table for myself. It won't be a table, but in usage it will be a table, and in a linguistic reality it will become a table. So that it's not yet fully, finally, it doesn't have clear-cut definition. That means the intention of the word, the intention of creating the word, can make things as it sees necessary. It can take the even form of the table and make out of it some other form. And it can take any other form which is not table and make a table. It's a kind of...
What's nice in this understanding is that it allows us to see the transients and the constant transformations that are going around. The thing is to find by its function what its form.
Right.
The table is not always a table, it's always changing.
Right. So this pen is not really a pen unless I write with this. Otherwise, it's something else. Well, it can be something else. I can make it something else. So,
I have a question. With man-made objects, one can change the use of it, do something else with it. But with something like a mountain or a tree, that you cannot make it something else. Yes, you can chop a tree and use it for firewood, but it's still all in the concept of a tree. It's all inclusive. A tree has all these functions. It grows from a seed. It encompasses that whole meaning.
it still stays tree, yes.
Yeah. So does...
There is treeness in it. There is panness in this. There is cowness in the cow. There is mountainous in the mountain, and so on and so forth. Yes. Because that is the faculty or the function, dynamic function of this manifestation. I can make a mountain out of, I don't know, cups or glasses, and that would be a mountain of glasses. So where is mountain? What is mountain?
In the next step, then you mentioned abstract words. Love. What's the equivalent in the hope? You have that word there, and how you get to that?
More difficult, yeah?
Yeah.
When you come to such abstract words as love, and hate, joy.
Excuse me. Giving a name to an object, a reality, we will not limit it. Reality is a reality. Once you give a name to it, then you round up and limit it. What the reality is different.
This is a very good definition of a rational mind, which deals with definitions and dwells on definitions. We are pre-rational, trying to come to rationality. We are on the way. Actually, we had 3 classes before. based especially on the Vedic perception, which is not yet rational. So we are moving towards that, what you are saying. And we will see how it will happen, and how it will become something you can't deal with anymore, only to deconstruct it. And then you will see, there must be something more. But coming back to those most interesting questions of what is love, and what form it may have, love, philosophy, or truth, or God, divine. How would you deal with these meanings? Here I want to say they are most flexible, and they are fully charged with this intention to create or to present the consciousness in its own pure original vibration. Now, vibration of love is known to us on all levels of being, on the physical, on the vital, on the mental, and higher, or deep, in the soul. These vibrations can be presented everywhere. We can see their equivalents. We can feel them through things. We can feel even love in the storm, in the complete demolition of things, in the end of the world. You can see the element of love. It is there, and it can come through. So these are most original vibrations of consciousness which come through to us, but which can form everything else. They do not have yet particular form. They cannot be fixed into particular form yet. And they can be very conducive of any other form and create any other. You give me your definition. It would be interesting what you would think about. Yeah?
So that means that in these cases the names given to these ideas which want to come through cannot exhaust it, cannot define it finally, can never find it or mean it.
They are, yes, they are staying still in their own domain. Even they are leaping out to us, yes. They are still having the very clear and deep connection to their source. They are not leaving fully that source. Of course, we can make them leave. We can make out of it a definition of form, dwell as such, and make this picture of making love and definition of love. But I am not sure that that would say anything. It won't be love.
So that means there must be a connection then between these two, and if you cut that off,
yes,
nothing else happens.
yes, they are not only here. They are from here coming from the center. They are dwelling, they are carrying their power, and they are carrying their form with it. Yes, they are not deviating from form in this level too far. Of course, you may find expressions or indications or symbols in the outer reality of them, but you will use them as symbols rather. It will still stay within our consciousness. Well, yes. More. Actually, it's nice to sit here because there is wind there. I'm on the way. Yes, you can see the. So these Vachya and Vachaka, expressive and expressed element, later will become that what we know as signified and signified. Nama and Rupa of the Vedanta later becomes something else with which we are dealing in structuralism. These two great definitions.
Then, as I understood, with the word love or this meaning of love, that means it goes always through all levels and you could not separate it, or it's not.
Some people tried to separate.
Yeah, and
yes,
that would be to look at it. No? It is not
easy to separate.
Yeah.
But mind is capable of separation, even these things.
What about God?
Huh?
The divine?
Yes. Well, it's close to love, the same example. For example, yes, you can make, the word divine means nothing now in the West. Divine means anything. It's just cool. is equivalent to the divine. Or love itself, I love you, lost its meaning to the extent that it's impossible to see it. In Sanskrit, you cannot make such mistakes. You cannot say, I love you, you know that, and meaning something else. You cannot mean something different than what you say. So in Sanskrit, there are many words for love, 10, 12 words. And if you compare them, that would mean exactly what you want to say. You say, I am overwhelmed with your presence, or my soul is melting, and so on and so forth. Or you say, I desire you, and that would mean also I love you. So the translations will be all of them, I love you, but in Sanskrit it will be clearly defined what you want, or what intention you have in your word. So later, because of this particular thing, this structure of consciousness which changed to rational, that these things started to mean something else. They are representative. So now we think with the mind in representative way. We are not having a living word anymore with us. Our word is a symbol of our mental structure. And that's why we always ask, what do you mean? Do you understand what I mean? Why should I understand what you mean if you said it already? No, I said something else about these words. These words are not reaching that what I mean. So they are all representative. They are not the living expression of consciousness. They are the expression of the formation of the mind. Now I leave with this and we move into very interesting one definition of Sri Aurobindo, which I want to make on the ground of this scheme, and what he defines as samjnana. Samjnana is the essential sense which appears at the beginning and which is holding that unity of power and knowledge of the word and the mind within one sign. Now I come back to my scheme and I want to show you this, that why I make this circle, nobody asked, but I will now come back to it. This circle is that sign, the reality of sign. Sign consists not of two realities, not of one. And these are all these elements of that sign. So if I look at this sign, how Sri Aurobindo defines it through in these psychological terms, he says in this way, everything begins with vibration or movement, the original kshobha. Now you can imagine that at the beginning there was one something which lived with one consciousness and knew itself as such in its own domain of peace and reality. Everything, Sri Aurobindo says, begins with kshobha, with this vibration in consciousness or disturbance. If there is no movement of the conscious being, it can only know its own pure static existence. It's quite clear. It can't know anything else if there is no movement. Without vibration or movement of being in consciousness, there can be no act of knowledge and therefore sense. These are profound definitions. They require dwelling. It's not so simple to understand what he says. Without vibration or movement of being in consciousness, there can be no act of knowledge and therefore sense. The definition of sense comes in. Without vibration or movement of being in force, this one, force, power, shakti, and other is sense, the knowledge, the word. Without vibration or movement of being in force, there can be no object of sense. We have the sense and the object of sense. We have the word which knows what it is, and we have the object of it. Without the movement of being in consciousness and force, these two things cannot come into play. The manifestation cannot take place. Movement of conscious being as knowledge, becoming sensible of itself as a movement of force. In other words, the knowledge separating itself from its own working. To watch that and to take it into itself again by feeling, this is the basis of universal sensuality. This is true both for internal and external operations. This is the best definition of consciousness. So what happens here? Look at this. Movement of conscious being as knowledge, becoming sensible of itself as a movement of force, or separating itself from its own working, as if these two separated from one consciousness, they became separate two realities. Separating itself from its own working, knowledge, to watch that working, and to take that working into itself back again by feeling, is the basis of this universal samjnana, or universal sense.
So if it takes it back in knowledge, it's again no separation. So it's feeling something else is second.
Also self-identification, actually.
Yes, objectivization of itself, of its own working. Objectivization of itself, of its own working. This thing, or any other thing, how this table, for example, kind of ask a stupid question, how this table knows how to be a table. How this table knows how to support the computer and microphone and to stay stable here while we are whirling in the space with enormous speed, and our Earth and our galaxy all turns, and it knows how to be a table. How all things know how to be these things? There is something within them which knows. It is not something which is only to our senses, it is also to itself. It is self-representation of this power.
I just have a question about the word samjnana. At the beginning of the quote, you spell it S-A-M, and at the end of this quote, it's S-A-N.
Yes, both of it.
What is it in Sanskrit?
Yes, samjnana. Sam means together. Jnana means knowledge or self-realization. It's knowing totally, completely, absolutely. Samjnana. Can be, yes, writing in English can be both. Samjnana and samjnana. But there are 4 great definitions of consciousness which show the universe. These are samjnana, ajnana, vijnana, and prajnana. And it's the whole view on the whole psychology is there, the highest kind. But I cannot really delve now.
Can you just give the names again?
Ajnana. Samjnana, I will give you in hierarchy. Ajnana, vijnana, and prajnana. Our consciousness, as Sri Aurobindo says, operates by these 4 operations. Samjnana is only one operation of consciousness, but it is essential sense. How things are sensible of themselves, sensible to themselves. Ajnana is the outgoing of power to dwell on things and to possess them in comprehensive movement of power. Vijnana is comprehensive consciousness, which is upholding all things in their varieties, properties, and making oneness of all things in a meaningful, holding them in a meaningful space. Prajnana is outgoing of apprehensive consciousness in order to dwell on things in the image of thing, to enter with it in the analytic or synthetic relations. So it's objective holding. This is subjective upholding, comprehensive. This is outgoing of power. This is inbringing into its own perception. These four, you can read quotations from Sri Aurobindo in the Kena Upanishad and study them. They are the beginning of a new science of consciousness. And he says,
Sanjana which joins hearing and seeing.
yes.
You said who joins hearing and seeing? I was expecting the answers.
This is, we are moving toward, yes, we are moving towards that answer because that is the whole question of linguistics. What makes the meaning and the object one? Why, how do you know that this is a pattern? That's basically the reasonable question. If you can answer that, at least approximately, we would succeed quite a bit. Now Sri Aurobindo dwells on this concept of mantra. And this is one of the most famous quotations which he gives there, which is in his, which was not published. Yes, it's in our archives. Now what he says, he writes about mantra, a supreme, an absolute of itself, a reaching to an infinite and utmost. This is the vibration of consciousness. A last point of perfection of its own possibilities is that to reach all action of nature intuitively dense in its unconscious formations. And when it has arrived to that point, it has justified its existence to the spirit which has created it and fulfilled the secret creative will within us. Speech, the expressive word, is such a summit or absolute, a perfection which is the touch of the infinite upon its finite possibilities and seal upon it of its creator. The mantra is the word that carries the Godhead in it, or the power of the Godhead, can bring it into the consciousness and fix there it and its workings. Not only bring, but also fix. Awaken there the thrill of the infinite, the force of something absolute. Perpetuate the miracle of the supreme utterance. This highest power of speech, and especially of poetic speech, is what we have to make here the object of our scrutiny, discover. I guess the Lord would answer those questions in poetic class. Now there is a quotation of how mantra works, how it comes. Now it emerges from Savitri. It's a famous quotation, everybody quotes it. So I also will quote it.
Can we erase the
writing? All right, sorry. This word was seed of all the thing to be. A hand from some greatness opened her heart's doors and showed the work for which her strength was born. As when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, its message enters stirring the blind brain and keeps in the dim ignorant cells its sound. The hearer understands the form of words and, musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with a laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper discipline of his soul. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unalterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels the wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes in him like a sea. Transmuted by the wide spiritual ray, he walks in naked heavens of joy and calm, sees the God face, and hears transcendent speech. An equal greatness in the life of my soul. Now, when the word was brought from those heights, was the expression of that consciousness which Sri Aurobindo is presenting in Savage. It has a power to bring you back to that height, if you let it. Because it's a vibration, a formation of that consciousness. And that opens the whole section in our course on the Vedic usage of the word. How the Vedic word was used. Sri Aurobindo speaks about it in The Secret of the Veda. The hymns possess indeed. What is the time? 7 past. Maybe we will end with this quotation today, and next time I want to go with you into this profound issue of how the Vedic word was used. We will start with this, and then we will continue, we will shift into the post-Vedic literature. It's a very interesting thing. It looks like very dull at the beginning, but it is not dull at all. Why and how the whole Indic tradition came up. It's only the tradition of the word. There is nothing in India. It's the word. All the stories, all the hymns, it's all oral tradition. There's not much of other kind of things. They are all created later. But the word is so archaic and so deep. Sanskrit is so profound. So the hymns, says Sri Aurobindo, possess indeed a finished metrical form, a constant subtlety and skill in their technique, great vibrations of style and poetic personality. They are not the work of rude barbarous and primitive craftsmen, but the living breath of a supreme and conscious art, forming its creation in the puissant but well-governed movement of a self-observing inspiration. It has self-observing inspiration. It's not just an expression or excitement. It has a reflection within its own consciousness. Still, all these high gifts are deliberately being exercised within one unvarying framework and always with the same materials. For the art of expression was to the rishis only a means, not an aim. A means for something else. Their principal preoccupation was strenuously practical, almost utilitarian, in the highest sense of utility. The hymn was to the rishi who composed it a means of spiritual progress for himself and for others. It rose out of his soul. It became a power of his mind. It was the vehicle of his self-expression in some important or even crucial moment of his life's inner history. It helped him to express the God in him, to destroy the devourer, the expressor of evil. It became a weapon in the hands of the Aryan striver after perfection. atom, the word. It flashes forth like Indra's lightning against the cowrie on the slopes, the woof of the path, the roar by the streams. These are inner realities, which we are always confronted with, but we never name them. We are too rational. We already know it.
What's the word? Aryan striver.
Aryan striver means Sri Aurobindo defines Aryans as the soul definition. It has nothing to do with Aryan as a race. He says there are Aryan peoples who are those who are seeking after the truth. So we will enter this with a minute of